As promised, we are joined by the newest member of the Kansas City Chiefs, linebacker Drue Tranquill. Drue, you just spent 4 years with the Chargers. Like, how does that sound? Is that weird yet for someone to introduce you as a member of the Chiefs?
Ross, I'll tell you, when my wife flew into Kansas City to do our signing, I walked in the practice facility and I was like, I gotta say, this feels weird, man. Like, I've walked in the same building for 4 years, and here I am, arguably in our biggest rival's facility. But man, we're just excited for this new chapter. It's gonna be great.
It's funny that you say that because my rookie year, I was with the Redskins, and I grew up outside of Philly, so I grew up an Eagles fan. So I'm with the Redskins, and like I thought it was like college. So I got somehow I got like a Redskins helmet sticker, and I put it on the back of my 1990 Jeep Cherokee because I hadn't even bought a car yet, and that was cool until the Redskins cut me. And I got picked up the next day on waivers by the Cowboys. So you want to talk about rivals, dude, like Redskins to Cowboys. So, I mean, I hope you don't have as many stops as I do. You see all the helmets behind me, but you'll get over that pretty quick. You really will.
Ross, I got to ask, Ross, did you remember to take the sticker off your car before you pulled into the Cowboys facility?
Great question. And the answer is, on my way to training camp, my second year, literally driving to training camp because it was in PA, my 1990 Jeep Cherokee broke down. So my mom comes on the highway, and I don't know what she did. I forget what she did, but she like stayed there with my car because I was going to be late for training camp. I hopped in my mom's little like sedan. I drove to training camp, and it was Spurrier. It was 2002. I was starting. I started every preseason game, so I bought a Denali, and I did not put the Redskin sticker on the back of the Denali. But what's funny is, like, I'm starting, then I have a bad game. Halfway through the year, they cut me to put me down on practice squad, and I was like, oh, my gosh, I can't believe I just bought this car. Thankfully, the Cowboys picked me up on waivers, which is wild because there's no state income tax in Texas, so I was actually making like $1,500 more. I was like, getting fired is awesome. You actually make more money the next team you go to. It's pretty funny.
Yes. Let's go. Yeah, that's one thing I won't miss. I won't miss the LA taxes.
Unbelievable. All right, so let's talk about free agency. I mean, you get drafted by the Chargers. You're there for 4 years. Then you hit free agency. Was it better, worse? About what you thought it would be, or what was maybe more different than you thought it would be going into it?
Yeah, I gotta say, I was a little surprised the Chargers didn't want to bring me back. There were people in the building that really wanted me back, and there were a few people that wanted to move on. And business is business, but when you give 4 years so hard to an organization and it doesn't feel reciprocated, that's hard. And so I think, to answer your question, maybe it was a little harder on my wife and I. We had 3 kids out in LA. We were hoping to stay out there. Didn't pan out. And, later in the week, the Chiefs were adamant all week. They really wanted me. They had to figure out the tackle position with Orlando Brown leaving. And I think just the championship culture there, the coaching staff, when you talk about Super Bowl winning coaches, Brendan Daly, our linebackers coach, he's done it in New England, done it with the Chiefs. And so we were really, really excited. Waited longer than we thought. The linebacker market was just very saturated. A lot of guys, a lot of free agents, but man, so excited talking to Andy Reid, talking to the linebackers coach, talking to Brett Veach. Like, they're stoked to have me. They really wanted me, really pursued me hard. And, we're excited to be Chiefs.
So appreciate everything you just said and the way you handled it. I got to be honest with you, man. It's a head scratcher for me. It's like 2 years in a row where it seems like the Chargers want to get rid of anybody in the front seven that they can. I mean, the year before, like, they let Nwosu go. They don't bring back Linval Joseph. I have no idea what happened with Jerry Tillery. I think I'm missing a guy or two. And now this year with you, White. What's that?
Kaiser White.
Yeah, that's because so I do the Eagles preseason games, and I do their pregame on the radio. Kaiser White. Do you have any explanation for that? Like, what is it about the Chargers that they really do not like any of the guys, it seems like, that are in the front seven? To me, it's just like bizarre. I mean, Kaiser White, let him in tackles. Nope. I mean, Nwosu's really good. Like, I don't get it.
Yeah. I don't know if it was, with Chenna, I don't know if just Staley's connection with Khalil and Chicago and bringing him in opposite Joey. Obviously, Khalil's a Hall of Fame player. The Kaiser situation, I really can't explain. Maybe, we had a 3-man rotation kind of going that year between Kaiser, myself, and Kenneth. I don't know if they were just comfortable with myself and Kenneth, but then this year, Tom Telesco made it very clear to me, in our exit interview that I was going to be a top priority. Tom was very adamant throughout the process. He was like, you're everything I wanted in a Charger. And so it was my first encounter with the business side of football where, teams have a budget and, they brought back Trey Pipkins on the offensive line. Kind of were not as active in free agency, spent a lot of money last year. And so I think, maybe a little bit victim of circumstance, but yeah, I don't think I'll ever know the full story. Kind of who, didn't really want me there or kind of wanted to move on, but it is what it is. And you got to move on. You got to get back into driver's seat.
Yeah. I mean, if it's any consolation, man, you're 27. And by the time I was 27, I was the only Princeton grad who had been fired 4 times. So you still haven't been fired. You were there for 4 years. You had a great run there. Now you're a free agent. Now you're going to the Super Bowl champs. Because that's the other thing, man. Like, you're guaranteed almost to make some playoff money, to play in big games, to have more people seeing what you're doing. And we've seen that. We've seen what that means for guys like Juju Smith-Schuster last year and others. There's value in going to a team that has success, plays a lot of primetime games, and being able to go out there and play well. I mean, is there part of you kind of hinted at this, Drew, but is there part of you that's like almost like if you can't beat them, join them?
I don't know so much that, but I'm just stoked because the linebacker room, I mean, is incredible. When you look at the guys across the board, Nick Bolton, Willie Gay, Leo Chenal, Cole Christensen. Man, I mean, it's just a deep room. There's a lot of guys that can really play some ball. I know I'm missing a couple of the guys. I'm looking forward to meeting them all here in a couple of days. But just from the coaching staff to the personnel, I think when I look at my story at Notre Dame, when I chose Notre Dame over Purdue, it's a very similar story in that, Brett Veachett and Andy Reid's message was, Drew, there's no promises here. We love you as a player. We love what you're able to do. You're super versatile. You're a total linebacker, can do it all. But we got a lot of great players here, and you're going to have to come in here and earn your way again. And it was kind of the same message when I chose Notre Dame over Purdue. Purdue was like, hey, you'll come in here, you'll play right away. Notre Dame was like, hey, you're going to have to earn your way. And if I've learned anything in my story, it's when I surround myself with people that are as good or better than I am, I always end up coming out better on the other end. And I think the ultimate goal for me is I want to be the best football player that Drue Tranquill can be. And I felt like being with the Kansas City Chiefs, out of all the teams that made a push for me in free agency, gave me the best chance to do that.
It's interesting because I have 2 questions about your health that I want to get to when we return here to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. All right, so Drew, 2 things I want to get into. It's really weird. You had an unbelievable career at Notre Dame. You just played 4 years in the Chargers. Yet when I think of you, and I bet you get this all the time, one of the first things I think about is the Notre Dame torn ACL. Like, do people bring that up to you all the time? And why is it? Like, it's not like you're the only guy that's ever torn an ACL. It just, for some reason, it got so much attention, I remember.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't escape it early on in my career at Notre Dame. And, a big part of me was like, man, is this really how people are going to remember me? I think it was the circumstances a little bit of how it happened, tearing 2 ACLs within 8 months. And then the second one coming during a celebration after a huge play and arguably the best game I had in my career thus far at Notre Dame. I think it was a bit the circumstances and just how it happened, back to back in 8 months. But I'm just so thankful to the Lord for giving me the strength and renewing my strength daily to come back from that. And it parallels my story in the NFL. I get the starting job my second year, much like I had my second year at Notre Dame, and I end up, dislocating my ankle, 5 plays into that second season in the NFL. So a lot of parallels in my story, but I'm so thankful for the medicine and how far it's come, because ACLs 20, 30 years ago, that was a death sentence for your career. And now, guys are able to come back, healthier and stronger.
So it's interesting because the way we kind of got connected is I've noticed you and other guys. I feel like it's most notable for some reason with Dalton Schultz. Cowboys are on primetime every week, and Dalton Schultz always has that neck thing. And I think I tweeted something like, "What is that neck thing?" Because they definitely didn't have that, when I was playing. And so I got in touch with the company, or they got in touch with me and talked to me about some of the other guys that were using it, such as yourself. And they said, "Would you be interested in interviewing any of them?" I said, "I would love to interview Drue Tranquill. That'd be awesome." Because I kind of had seen you get interviewed before and knew your story from Notre Dame, and just knew that you would be this type of young man when I spoke to you. Tell me about the neck thing. I should have this in front of me, but I don't even know the name of the company. I do know, though, that it's supposed to do something helping you with concussions, correct?
Yeah. And it's a huge conversation, right? In football and in other collision sports is, brain health, and how do we protect athletes' brains all the way from peewee all the way up into the pros. And, we see the big cases like what happened, with the Dolphins and Tua this year, where, guys are getting up and wobbling. But, I think what Q30 Technologies and Q Collar in specific is trying to do is, the research is showing that it's more the subconcussive head impacts over time, the repetitive head impacts, the repetitive head trauma over time that leads to these things like CTE and these degenerative conditions later on down the road. And so, what Q-Collar is doing, and no, it's not a cooling device. I got asked that throughout training camp. "Hey, man, is that like a cooling device for your neck?" I'm like, no, it's actually protecting my brain and does something called jugular compression. So what it does is adds blood volume in your head right before impact. And it's a slight pressure around the neck. Takes about 1 to 2 weeks to getting used to, but after that just became kind of part of my uniform. And I got to say, Ross, I wore it at Notre Dame and reached back out to them before the beginning of this season. And just really, really encouraged and excited by how I felt, after this season. Didn't experience as much of the fog and I guess the dizziness that sometimes you probably know and are familiar with after Sundays. And so it's just, I think it's top of the line innovative technology that's kind of, not so much saying what can we put outside of an athlete or on an athlete, but what can the body actually do for itself. And so it's really cool, interesting technology, and I'm excited, and hopefully more athletes will continue to wear it. I think it's top of the line and the best in its class.
That's cool. I think it actually looks pretty cool, to be honest with you. And
Right?
not that that's why guys wear it, but there's certain things you wear and you're like, really? But I think it actually looks pretty sweet. And it's funny because I'm really good friends with the president and CEO of the Concussion Legacy Foundation, Chris Nowinski. He was a D tackle at Harvard when I was playing at Princeton. So I raise money for the Concussion Legacy Foundation up in Boston and all the CTE stuff twice a year, once in the fall and then once in May I do a walk. So I'm heavily involved in it. I had short arms, man. So my move, anytime I ever went to a linebacker, as you can tell, as I'm filling up this screen, my move was to headbutt them so they would like blink a little bit. And then I would get my arms in there and just grab them. And I'm probably screwed, but you know what I can do? I can try to raise money and do the best I can to help them. They've come a long way. They're getting closer and closer to being able to identify it in living people, which would be huge, because once you can do that, then you can try medicines to slow it down. Once you have medicines that can slow it down, well, then all the big pharma companies will come out of the woodwork and put the research and development in to really try to knock this thing out. And hopefully not too late for guys like me and you. Drue, I really appreciate the time. I'm fired up for you and what you got going on in Kansas City. I didn't know you already had 3 kids and everything. That's wild. That's one thing. My girls are 9 and 11. And they know I played football and stuff. And the cool thing for me is every year in school, Drue, until this upcoming season, they've been able to tell all the boys that their daddy was teammates with Tom Brady, which is amazing. Like gave both them and me immediate street cred, you know, at the start of every school year. But they never actually got a chance to watch. How old's your oldest?
He'll turn 4 at the end of May. So we had all 3 of them during our time with the Chargers. My wife was 38 weeks pregnant when we flew out here. Didn't have a rental house, didn't have nothing. Packed a U-Haul, had my buddies drive it. We land, find a rental place, and have a baby 2 weeks later. So our oldest Eli, then we got Grace, and Mackenzie was born this past November. So
congratulations!
It's chaotic.
That's amazing, and I love that. I love that at least the older one will be able to remember, you know, seeing Daddy in his helmet and as a football player, and hopefully hopefully you play 10 more years. Where can people find you, Drue, if they want to follow you on social media?
Follow me on Twitter at Drue Tranquill. You can follow me on Instagram at Drue Tranquill, and then they can go listen to my show, The Drue Tranquill Show, available on all the platforms, Spotify, iTunes, iPodcasts, you name it.
Dude, I didn't know you had your own show already. Why have I not been on that thing?
So I did it with having our third daughter. I've kind of put it on hold and with free agency this year, but man, I had 10 really interesting conversations last year. My thing was, I feel like people just know athletes. They can kind of become just like this kind of superhero effect where it's almost like they're not human. And my thing was, I want people to know the people kind of behind the helmet, behind the jersey. So I interviewed surfers, I interviewed pro football players, coaches, and the thing was really for fans and people to get to know the human being kind of behind it all. So was kind of telling people stories, but there's a lot of really cool stories you can go listen to on that. YouTube, you name it.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for the time, man. Really appreciate it.
Hey, blessings, Ross. Best of luck to you.